So thanks again for joining us. I'm turning it over to Diana now, and just welcome you all and thank you for joining.
Hi, everybody. Glad to see you all on here. Want to make sure that you know you can reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about your accounting or anything else to do with your secretary trainings. To kick us, our portion off, I want to introduce you to Amanda Floor. Many have heard her give an audit report at convention. She works with, as she said, with Whitfleet. So with that, I will turn it over to Amanda.
Thanks, Diana. I'm trying to find my notes, so hang on a second as I bring them up. But yeah, so we're gonna go over a couple of things, housekeeping things. If you have questions, reach out to me. I sent these out to Diana so she can send them out to you guys if she hasn't already done that. But
Amanda, can you share that on your screen, or would you like me to?
yeah, I was wondering, can I do that from here?
Yeah, but I can too.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind that.
Okay, either one. All you have to do is put your cursor over the share screen, and it will pop up, and you will be able to select your screen. And we have, I think we have the settings, so you can do it, and then you'll be able to advance it if you want.
Okay.
You find it, Amanda?
Yeah, is that sharing? Oh, I guess I had to push share.
There you go.
Awesome. Okay, so first thing on here is just an overview of the retention policy. A lot of questions we get from individuals is how long they have to keep documents around. I did have an example one out here that is from the Better Business Bureau, and I can send that over. But anything that's retaining to tax documents, financial statements, are permanently held. And so you want to make sure that you're keeping those, and also making sure they're known to where they're being held at. I think a lot with the boards changing and people changing roles is making sure that history is kept and being held in a safe place. A lot of things that I'm seeing with not-for-profits is using like Google Docs. I don't know if that's something that you have access to, but that's always an option. And then just make sure that your retention policy covers holding documents electronically. So I did have out there that as something to kind of make sure and review. Your tax, so essentially on your tax filing, how you are exempt currently is under the umbrella of Montana Farm Bureau. It's called a group exemption. And these are really rare now. They actually don't give a lot of these out anymore to the IRS, as essentially you're underneath Montana Farm Bureau says these organizations are going to file underneath our umbrella and be exempt also. And they're kind of signing off on those. So it's really important for us to keep that group exemption alive and intact. So you probably have seen us send out a letter out to you guys and ask you if your county has had over $50,000 worth of receipts, meaning deposits. And if you have had over 50,000, just reach out to us so that we can ask additional questions from you. If not, then you just return the letter and say no. And what we're doing is we're filing a 990 postcard on your behalf. We'll send a copy of that postcard and the confirmation over to Diana, and I think she's distributing that out to you guys to hold on to. So that would be a permanent document. But then it's saying, yep, you're filed and you can keep your exempt status. In the past, some of you have been around long enough to kind of know what we used to request from all the counties when gross receipts were more higher on the end because of the income that was flowing through there. But you should still be doing that as if you're going to turn it over to someone, making sure you're doing bank reconciliations, make sure your financial statements are kept in order, as if you're going to turn it over and someone's going to take that on, especially towards year end. So just as a reminder, even though we're not requesting for it, it's still really probably the best habits to get into to keep doing that so that it doesn't get too far out. And then Diana and the team has asked me to also go over governance standards, which is something we like to kind of do to all boards, just as a reminder. As a board member, you're acting as a not-for-profit fiduciary, and you're responsible for maintaining public trust, as well as upholding the organization's mission legally. As a board member, it is a duty, and it's easy to forget about that as you're in a role longer and longer, but it's always a good reminder that you're acting as a steward of that organization, and to always remember that you're in the public eye in that regard. So there's 3 duties out there: duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of obedience, that they ask you to have when you're in that role. And duty of care essentially is just acting like an ordinary person that would, in that same manner, would act. So mostly, making sure that you're not having a self-interest in your transactions, or, you're acting in the best interest of the organization and all times, and also how it could be perceived by somebody else. So just to keep that in mind. Duty of loyalty is just exercising an undivided and unselfish loyalty to the organization served. So just keeping in mind of what the organization you're representing, and making sure that what you're doing is in line with their mission. And that kind of goes along with the obedience as well, as making sure that you're furthering the mission that you're representing, and that you're faithful to those article of corporations and bylaws that are approved. Make sure that those are your guiding lights as you're making decisions for the organizations. If you do not have articles of corporations or bylaws updated, it'd be a good time to review those and make sure they're actually what you're doing. If not, those can always be updated too. So that's what I had.
When are the those letters due back to you guys on the tax filing?
I believe we said the 15th. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what we stated, and we've gotten a lot of those back. So we do have some of them received. So don't panic. If you get close to that day, you're always welcome to email those back to me too. We'd like to have the document so that we have that as a support of why we filed a 990 postcard. So emailing that back to us would be great, or mailing. I think that's all I had. Is there anything else you want me to cover, or any questions that you may have as you're kind of doing the secretary role, or anything financially wise?
You all should have that retention schedule. Did you want her to pop that up on the screen, or are you good with the email copy you got? Good. Does anybody have any questions for Amanda? No questions? Just raise your hand if you do. All righty. Well, Amanda, thanks for joining us.
Really, yes, thank you for having me.
Taking time out of your day.
Yes, anytime. If you have any questions, reach out to Diana, and she knows where to find me. So, yeah. But have a great meeting. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks, Amanda.
Yep.
All righty. Well, with that, I will follow up just a little bit on some of what Amanda was talking about. And one of the really important things that you guys do is keep minutes of your meetings. Farm Bureau has always been a target to the IRS. I think because of the insurance link, it's kind of a big target out there. And so far, we've been pretty successful in keeping that nonprofit status, but there's a lot of ways you can endanger that status, not taking care of your financials and keeping them up to date. Really important that at least you give a financial report at your annual meeting. It's nice to have that and document it in your board meeting minutes. And there's a lot of questions about how to take meetings. The first thing that I do is try to use your agenda for the meeting as a kind of a template for starting your minutes, so it keeps an order to the minutes, which works great unless you have a chairman that's jumping around on the agenda. Make sure somebody has been assigned ahead of time to take those minutes. If you're not able to be there, it's really nice to prepare somebody to do that, because if you catch them off guard, they might forget things like recording what the meeting was, what the date was, what the time was, where the meeting was held, those type of details. It's good to include attendees that were there. It's a good thing to note who were guests that were there. So in case people are reading them later and they wonder why they were there, oh, are they on the board? No, they were a guest. And sometimes I list who was not there that should have been there. And that way you can keep track of your quorums. Don't put too much stuff in your minutes. Discussions aren't necessary in your minutes. Sometimes that leaves you open to a target if a lawsuit happens, because it gives them more material to go on. And the same as recording who made motions and who seconded them. There's some argument out there that some people like that listed, some don't, but again, it's another target for a lawsuit. And the other thing is, once a motion is passed, it is a motion of the board, the entire board. So regardless if you were that person that jumped out and made the motion, it's not your motion, it's a motion of the board anyway. So those are just the things, you know, a few things. Just record motions, leave the discussion out of it. It doesn't matter in the end once the vote happens, unless a little bit more detail is necessary. If the motion doesn't make any sense without more detail, you can add a paragraph explaining some of the discussion. And then lastly, record what time the meeting adjourned. And then maintain those minutes and keep track of them. It's really nice to have, just keep a folder or a 3-ring binder or something, because those should be maintained forever. And when you do step down as secretary, you can hand that over to the next person. It helps with documentation to the IRS. It helps with maintaining history. It helps new board members understand how the organization works. A lot of good reasons to keep those good minutes. Does anybody have any questions on minutes?
Diana, I put it in the chat box, but can you expand a bit more about what should be in a financial report, especially during your annual meeting?
What I would do is, you all create a budget annually, right? I'm assuming. And I would just come up with your own financial report. You know, your major things that you have, like dues, you're going to want to put dues, what your revenue was. So put out some major, the things that you really get a lot of. It can just be one account. Expenses, like if you're paying for office rent, you know, that would be a separate one. So both income and expenses, and have a net at the end of the year so you know where you're at. I also like to include your beginning cash balances and your ending cash balances. It's also a good thing to have in there. And if anybody would like, we can send out to you guys a sample financial report for a county farm bureau, such as what the auditors would ask for on a normal year before we went to these postcard filings.
I would
And
appreciate
if anybody was wondering why there was that big change, we used to have county office agreements where the county office person, the secretary for the insurance agent, was a secretary and an employee of the Farm Bureau. And all the business of that office used to run through the county's taxpayer ID number, and it was an office account. And so those made those balances way higher than they used to be. So I think the only time anymore I've seen a county have revenue in excess of that $50,000 is in the instance where a building was sold or something like that. So I will get that example for a financial statement out to you guys. Moving on from there,
Anna? Diana, it's Alina. I was just hoping to clarify those records of the minutes. Those could be electronic, correct?
Yes,
Like, you don't have to
absolutely.
have binders upon
They
binders
can.
on their shelves. Okay.
The danger with those is make sure they're maintained as, you know, new versions of different software comes out, that you maintain those so that they can be opened down the road if you're going to do that. Because I've seen that happen in the past where you're like, all of a sudden, oh, all of these were on a floppy disk. Nobody has anything that can open it. You know, they're gone. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. I find it easiest on my electronic records is to file them in a folder by year. And that way, if you look at your retention policy, you can stick with it. You know, permanent files, 7-year files, 3-year files, 2-year files. Keep them cleaned up that way, because they can overwhelm you, as I know. By the way, it's going to be 25 years working for Montana Farm Bureau in March of this year. So long time. That's why I look so old. Joy asked, are we supposed to send records to the state? Does the state keep them on file? Not as far as minutes, as far as I know, but you do need to file, and this was on my list, a Montana Corporation report every year by April 15th. And that's an online form. It's very simple to do. You just keep up to date your board of directors. Really, that's the only thing that changes on that report year to year. Occasionally, you have to change who the registered agent is. That's a county decision, whether it's the county president, county secretary. Should be a more stable type position. If you get a new officer every year, you probably don't want them to be it, because you have to pay, I think it's $15 to change the registered agent name. And then you also need to file your articles of incorporation and bylaws with the state when you first set them up. And subsequently, if you amend your articles of incorporation, you need to file that amendment with the Secretary of State. And yes, they do maintain them on file. So,
Diana, I think maybe that was actually really good information. So I'm glad you answered that part. I think maybe Joy was asking about to the state office. So in that case,
I'm sorry, Joy, misunderstood that.
So I think both of those is good information.
I really like it when counties send them to the state, because we do maintain a file here. And some counties are very good. They send me all of their minutes and everything, and I keep them in that file, because as we know, you get new volunteer secretaries over time. And if, I've heard nightmares of counties getting, not in our state, but getting audited by the IRS, and they couldn't produce records to prove that they were furthering the mission of their articles of incorporation and bylaws. And, they had lost their nonprofit status, and we don't want to do that, because it's a nightmare. And as Amanda said, they aren't even doing those group exemptions anymore. So it's really important.
Can I make one little comment on the filing of the secretary, your state, your information with the Secretary of State?
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that all online, and all they accept is a credit card. And Fergus County didn't have a credit card, and so I was putting it on my own private card and then having them reimburse me, which got to be a pain in the rear. And thanks to Judith Basin County, they clued me into, why don't you just get a debit card for your county that's connected, if you don't want to do a credit card, you can do a debit card that's connected to your bank account and use that. And so that is a little tidbit that I'll pass on, that out of all the years I learned, it took me that long to figure this one out.
Very good. Glad you got that taken care of. I do know, if some of you are wondering about filing that, don't hop off this call and try to do it right now. Their website's down for maintenance to file those reports from now till I think it was December 1st through 7th. So you'll find that. When you're on the board, I'm going to share a screen with you here, just a moment.
Diana, before you do that, Joy has a good follow-up question.
Okay.
A lot of counties updated articles and bylaws last year. And my understanding, it is the county's job to file them with the state.
Correct.
Correct.
We
It
do
is.
not do that
And
part.
who in the office should counties be sending their minutes to? Did we decide Tara was gonna collect these and file them, or Scott?
I've been saving them, but I'm happy to I think any one of us probably could. Tara?
Well, I think the secretaries would like to have a centralized person.
Okay, membership team, you want it, Tara?
Sure, you guys can send them to me. My email is terap@mfbf.org. And if you, in the chat box, so if you want to copy it at all, you can.
And please CC your regional manager too, just so we make sure it gets there.
Yes. Moving on to, speaking of financial, I will put up a list on your screen. It's a price list for different things that we offer out of the state office to purchase. This list is subject to change, of course, but a lot of people don't realize how much apparel we do carry here or can get. Sue-Ann might follow up a little bit with some stuff she might be doing currently, but here's a little price list. And along those lines, these are perfect items to use up your Farm Bureau bucks. If your county has been awarded Farm Bureau bucks, use them up, please, because we're carrying over quite a few of them, and it's great to be able to get some of these items for your annual meetings and whatnot. You can use your Farm Bureau bucks for just about anything that I would bill you for. We have counties that use them to pay for registrations for their voting delegates, or sometimes they just say apply it to all our upcoming invoices. You know, we'll bill you for various assorted things, mostly member renewal notices, things like that. You can use your bucks to pay for that. Does anybody have any questions on Farm Bureau bucks?
You know, Diana, I think I gave you some bad advice when you asked the question about explaining Farm Bureau bucks. And we've got so many new secretaries on here, which is awesome, that maybe I'll just go over that real quickly.
That would be great.
Yeah, so when your County Farm Bureau submits awards for the Montana Farm Bureau, applications that we send out before convention, or in this case, we decided that after convention, the top winners in each category for different membership groups are awarded Farm Bureau bucks, and they've ranged anywhere from $200 to this year was $100, but we awarded them to everybody. So those are rewards for excellent activities performed by your county farm bureaus.
Thanks, Scotty. Anybody have questions on the Farm Bureau bucks? Okay. I'm going to share another screen for you here. When you're on the board, I wanted you guys to know, because this isn't something that I bill out to the counties. We maintain a director and officer insurance policy that we don't bill the counties for. So just be aware that if an issue ever comes up with your board of directors, that somebody doesn't like a decision you made in a board meeting or some such thing and decides that they get sue happy or something like that, give me a call, because we do carry policy. I'm not an insurance agent, so I can't tell you specifically incident by incident how it would be covered, but just generally it will cover actions of the board. The other kind of insurance that we carry that sometimes can help you is our liability insurance policy. That policy occasionally will satisfy the needs of a meeting venue. Every once in a while, you'll rent a place to hold one of your meetings, and they will say, we need proof of your insurance. Depends on the case. Sometimes our policy will cover it if it's just general liability they're looking for. Sometimes they're looking for specifically event insurance. And in that case, our policy won't help you. But it's another thing to keep in mind as you come up with insurance needs. And I think that was all that was on my to-do list to let you guys know. The other thing that I would ask that, and this goes along with these governance things, is it's really helpful if you can be responsive to emails that come from our accounting firm or invoices you get from the state office. It's easy to sometimes set it aside for a while, but we really don't like to see those get past due after a couple months. So if you ever don't understand an invoice you get from us or you don't agree with it, let me know. And I see Tara has a question. What are the mailing limits for office? We charge 3 cents a copy for black and white copies and 9 cents a copy for color copies. We charge for postcards. We can make a certain limit of copies for you, but if you get up into, what did we decide, guys, over 100 copies, we have to charge 50?
I think it's on that price list.
Is it on the price list?
Yeah.
Okay. But just know that's another service we can do for you, along with the county annual meeting postcards, such things like that. Does anybody have any questions? Cool. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Ricky, Regional Manager Ricky over there. And thank you guys for having me.